Hey guys, welcome to a Happy New Year and welcome back to Hope Rescue Podcast.
Oh my gosh, it's a new year.
It's a new year, but it's a new year. It's a new life.
Is that a song?
It's a new day.
There it is.
I'm
Settle down.
feeling
Everybody slow down right now.
That's Michael Bublé.
Would you have a little bit of coffee or what?
I don't
What'd you
know. But
Yeah,
that made
full of
me
the
think
spunk.
about Michael Bublé. Yes, I have a side hustle where I don't make money singing.
do?
So I'm really busy not making money
Yes.
as a backup singer.
I'd like you to make some money for a change.
I know, babe.
Okay.
Sorry. But anyway, yes, it's good to be in a new year. It is a fresh page, and that's what I love about a new year. Everybody gets to feel that, that
First week of the new year.
relief of starting something new, turning the
Yep.
page. And for all of us, we all know that life is about new beginnings and fresh beginnings and starts. So, yeah, it's good.
Yeah, I hope you had a good and safe new year. And here we are. This year is going to be my year of returning to the slopes.
Oh, yeah,
Yes,
baby. That is new.
I'm ready to go. Got my
Pray
season pass.
for my co-host.
Got my season pass at Big Bear. Going to head up there soon.
You're going to slay those slopes, babe.
Yeah,
slay the
slay 'em.
slopes.
I don't know what that means, but I'm going to do it.
Well, I will just say this. Be impressed because this year my smoking hot husband is going to be 70. And
I was
he
born
is,
in 52. It's
and yep.
2022.
And
Here it is.
you have always taken great care of yourself. But unfortunately, this last year, your shoulder gave out due to the heavy lifting you've been doing at the gym, and you had to have it replaced. And so your dream
man, it's like
has
brand new.
been to get back on the slopes all year.
Yeah.
And every day he visualizes, he practices in his mind. He bought the
and
skis.
I watch your reels.
Yep.
And,
So we're going to see it happen. So when I say pray for my co-host, it's just that I want it to be awesome for you and I want you to be safe.
well, I'm not going to be jumping and stuff. I've been skiing since I was a little
No,
kid.
I know. There's nobody more competent. I remember the day that we went skiing for the first time,
Yeah.
and we had the kids with us. And Gracie, you were teaching. This is why I'll never doubt your skills, babe. I am up on the lift going up the hill, and I hear down below on the bunny slopes my daughter, who at the time was 4, Gracie, screaming bloody murder because she was being taught that day, and she had somehow gotten loose from you at the top of the bunny slope and was headed directly towards a ski school of young skiers.
Yeah.
And she was like a bullet. And up there on the lift,
She
I
didn't
looked
know how
down.
to turn or stop.
I've never felt so helpless in my life up there watching her, thinking she is going to basically break legs and somebody else's. But there you come, like a superhero, down the mountain, like a bullet coming just a little bit faster than her. You get in front of her and you grab her and you like backward skate and you both lay down right before you get to the ski school. And I watched it, felt like slow motion. But
Yeah.
you were my hero that day and every day, babe.
That's a hero thing. That's not a great skiing thing, but whatever. Whatever
Babe,
works
no,
for
you-
No, I'm thinking this because, the whole, spaghetti, pizza, whatever it was.
Pizza pie,
Yeah.
apple pie, and spaghetti. Yeah, like the whole
Get
train kids. Yeah.
And you can see her head going, what am I supposed to do at this point? That was a scary moment for
Yeah, but you taught her skiing backwards. That's what was so impressive. Like
it's
you
not
would
that
ski
impressive.
down a hill backwards.
Anybody that skis is not that impressed. but
Okay,
whatever.
well, I'd never seen it before, so I'm just saying. My husband's kind of a big deal on the slopes.
Do we have a podcast to share?
Yeah.
today?
Yes. Today we are finally finishing.
I thought we were going to start a New Year's resolution was to not get sidetracked.
No.
Okay. No.
This is fun stuff.
Yeah, that's great.
We're going to finish off recapturing your voice in relationships. I know you'll all be glad to let us finally close this chapter, but it has been really good. And we've had lots of good feedback.
Yeah, I had a great idea for a new podcast theme, and I forgot what it was. And
Just
it's
now?
like, no, I mean, I've been trying to remember
Oh.
all day, and I'm like, I had it when I was walking the dogs. Hey, I got this great idea. Oh, that's going to be amazing.
Well-
Who talks about that? Yeah, it's going to be great. Now I can't remember.
Well, on that note, then let's just tell folks to, if you have felt thoughts or things that you are felt needs that you'd like to communicate in a podcast, throw us an email at hoperescue.org because we would love to cover that.
Well, let's finish up recapturing
Let's
your
get
voice.
into it.
So we are going to talk about
Yes. So there's a passage which we're going to be talking about losing your voice and how that can happen. But this passage is out of Ephesians 6:4, and it says, "Fathers, do not provoke your children to anger, but bring them up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord." We've all heard that. But the misconception is that anger is always expressed, when in reality, most anger is actually repressed in the heart, and it can grow and fester until at some point it reveals itself to the light of day, and it can be explosive.
Yeah, well, a lot of people say he gets angry. He's an angry person because I see he gets angry. And getting angry with that definition is the expression of anger. When in fact, many people, and I would say most people, when they get angry, it stays inside. Now, expressing anger, when you do that, can be very dangerous.
Yeah.
Because you can hurt other people, and it can escalate. The more angry you get, it gets your emotions going, and you get, it escalates. Anyway, but when you're angry, you are getting angry when it goes inside, and it can do tremendous damage there.
Yeah.
And that's a dangerous place to go. But our point being that as parents, if you want to destroy, fathers especially, if you want to destroy the voice and silence the voice of your children, you can easily do that by provoking them to anger. That'll shut them down. And a lot of kids don't, not until they get out of their house do they start expressing that anger in very unhealthy ways.
Well, it is interesting, and it's not to say that women aren't capable of expressing verbal anger, but that he addresses fathers directly about this, because fathers do tend to carry the weight in the home of, they set the tone and do tend to lean towards quick anger.
Yeah, I think fathers have a tendency to be more rule-oriented, more regimented. I was just looking at that word, stoicism, stoic. He's stoic. Excuse me. The word stoic comes from word to mean in lines or in rows, sometimes used for the alphabet. But the idea of everything lined up, stoics are people that don't express. And I kind of got sidetracked there. But just to say that I think a lot of fathers have a tendency to use less nurturing and more directive type statements.
Right. And they have less of a bandwidth in the patience department.
And I know you hear everywhere you go, there's no difference between men and women. There are differences, major differences. And but what's really important to keep in mind is that it can be overcome. When you look to the heart of your child and you begin to feel what they feel and at least acknowledge what they feel, it's a powerful thing. When you fail to do that, you shut them down, they get angry, and they stop talking.
Right.
That's a dangerous place to be.
And it's a weird cycle that, if not broken, will continue, because a lot of those dads are like that because their dads were like that. Yeah. And maybe they felt shut down as a kid and they became that, And moms, like I said, I don't want to make this all about dads, but that's the potential, and it's not healthy.
Yeah, one of the things when you talk about parenting and developing children with a voice, one of the things you might tell your children, and I used to tell this to my kids, my older children especially, that you can tell me whatever you think. I just need you to do it with respect. So if they do it respectfully and they tell you what they think, this is a healthy thing. Because if they don't tell you what they think, if they're holding it in, you can't deal with it. And we've had some of our kids that have told us, I've been filming this for years, and I never wanted to say anything out of fear. So that's a problem. We want our children to be able to communicate.
Right.
And you can't always get your kids to talk because they might seem like they are sharing everything, but there might be something there. It's very important to have those conversations where things surface.
Right. And I think a practical way to do that is to think about how you handle your kids in those crucial moments where they've experienced something, do you coddle them? Like if they've fallen and they've hurt themselves, do you respond with, get up, you're fine, you'll be okay? As our boys would say who've been in the military, rub some dirt in it, you're going to be fine.
Yeah,
Or,
unfortunately, that's my problem. I have a tendency to go, you're fine. I remember one time, Gracie, we've shared this before, about she had 3 broken bones. You're all right. I went water skiing with Carrie and Mario, our daughter and son-in-law, and he fell and hit his head on the ski, and his big gouge in his head,
bleeding profusely.
Yeah, it didn't seem that bad to me, but anyway, it needed a lot of stitches. But I said, I think you're fine.
Oh my gosh!
Rub some dirt in it.
So where
like
does that come from? Because I feel like
know.
that's a common denominator with dads is to to sort of like, I really am curious, like from a dad's perspective, where do you think that comes from?
Well, doctor,
The inability to like understand and see that there like, there's some pain or instead of saying like, I'm sorry that happened. Can I give you a hug?
I think it's, for me, I can't speak for all dads, but for me, it's like, if it's not real bad, then it'll be okay. I mean, let's not panic here.
So you don't want to fan the flames of dramatizing it, understandably.
Yeah.
And I think moms, naturally wired to be nurturers, we really can feel like the pain of our kids and almost to the extreme could lean to the coddling side. I know that was definitely my tendency, is to like, the boo-boos,
Yeah.
but and that's obviously to a little kid, but somewhere we need to find our comfort zone in the middle there somewhere,
And I think the comfort zone or the healthy way to deal with it is, I'm sorry that you fell down. Can I give you a hug?
Yeah.
And dads can do that. Mothers can do that. Acknowledge the pain. And even if, you look at a little kid, we look at Valor, Valor's a tough little kid.
Oh my gosh.
But he'll fall sometimes. You go, he's not hurt.
Yeah.
It startled him or for whatever reason he's crying. And I want to go, hey, man up, little guy. He is pretty manly most of the time. But then I realize if you go, oh gosh, I'm sorry, you fell.
Yeah.
Here, come here. Can I give you a hug?
Yeah.
And he's good. Yeah, he's like, I'm good.
I'm fine.
I'm fine. No, I'll get back to it.
That's his
And the guy likes
personality type.
dinosaurs, and if things get to where he doesn't want to, he thinks dinosaurs growl, he'll growl at you, like he's a dinosaur.
He's a
But
triceratops.
This idea that coddling is your only options are either to coddle or completely dismiss. I think those are 2 extremes. I think something in the middle where you acknowledge that they got hurt. I remember I had a girlfriend in high school, and we broke up, and she broke up with me actually, and I was sharing that with my dad, and he goes, I said, I was pretty moved. I was actually crying. And he essentially told me, you don't need to cry. It's not like your mother and I are breaking up.
Oh.
I'm like, wow. He goes, I said, well, I loved her. He goes, you
don't know what love is,
That's
right?
exactly. And my dad was not big on the old Marine is what he was, So I think I learned some of that along the way. And it's kind of like, but I do commiserate when the kids, break up or whatever.
Yeah, you're actually in their adult life, you have become the go-to for our adult children to be the good listener and to give them advice and stuff like that. In childhood, they knew it was mom who was going to get them to the ER.
Yeah. And here's why we bring this up. We bring this up because when you fail to affirm their experiences, you take away their voice.
Yeah.
You tell them your voice doesn't matter.
Right.
And they need to express it.
Right.
And some are very dramatic, like Carrie was. Carrie was very dramatic. She still is. She was very dramatic as a kid.
High feeler.
She's a high feeler, but yeah. But she also had this expression that the whole world will see what's going on here. Something's happening to me. I need the whole world to know.
Yeah.
And, when I would discipline her, I'd whisper in her ear. She goes, "No," loud, in a theater or whatever. But the point being that, to fail to affirm those experiences, not coddle them when they're being overly dramatic.
Yeah.
But, when they are being dramatic, tell me what's going on.
Yeah.
And be patient, wait for them, especially when they're young, to get through the dramatic expressions, and then really listen to what they're going through and commiserate with them. And to fail to do that is to say your voice doesn't matter.
Right.
And I think that's what happens when we talk about recapturing our voice. We wanted this episode of the podcast and this final kind of pulling this together. The voice is lost by oftentimes friends and parents and siblings that don't listen.
Right.
And we really need to listen. We don't have to coddle, but we really need to listen.
And if we fail to listen and our children don't have a safe place to be heard and to have a voice, what can happen is that, as we started this episode, can become repressed anger, and that will find a way out. And what we've seen, of course, in recent years is through social media, it's the quiet kids who can find their voice on social media in really unhealthy chat rooms, potentially really unhealthy support groups or whatever that are a place where they can vent. Right. And actually it can fuel some of that repressed anger, and they find their voice. And we've sadly seen through these last many years, that a lot of these children who have just taken that repressed anger and found an outlet through a family member's gun or whatever, taking it to school, and then they just, blow up a school. They have a record of finding their voice online. They've left a trail behind, and nobody's been listening.
A month or two ago, there was this little boy. I think it was in Michigan, 15-year-old boy. I can't remember what state it was, but I think it was in Michigan, where he received a gun from his parents for a birthday or whatever it was. And a teacher found a note where, it was symbols of killing kids. I can't remember exactly.
Pictures,
pictures of killing kids. And he goes, "Somebody help me. I can't stop my thoughts," or whatever it was. And the teachers or the school counselor and the parents, were in the room with the little boy. They never checked his backpack, and here it is. This kid is screaming out, "Help me stop my mind."
Not so little, 15, but
15 seems little, but he's just a young man who is crying out, "Listen to me, listen to me."
Right.
And the only voice he had in his mind, in his deluded mind, and obviously had mental health issues, started shooting people, and he was crying out for help. The voice was unheard.
Yeah.
And that is tragic.
And
that's tragic.
That's a perfect example, though, because we don't know, the dynamics of what he grew up with. But I can tell you the common denominator for most of those situations are children that have had unresolved anger issues or wounds behaviorally, from childhood. And so anyway, that's why it's so important to be able to recognize in your parenting how important it is for those kids to be heard in, like you said at the beginning of the episode, a respectful way. And I don't think there's anything wrong with putting boundaries on how they're allowed to express it. But if we're going to require that of our kids' parents, then we need to be an example of that to them with our anger and how we respond and react. And they're going to catch more than they're taught from you about that. So we are called to do the same thing.
Yeah. I was just thinking, you mentioned about social media. When we think of voice, we think of words, but voice are actions. So sometimes, for example, a young girl who is crying out for her dad's approval and love and affection growing up, and maybe she didn't get that. And so she turns to social media and to find, affection or whatever, and she ends up with somebody that is going to abuse her, sexually or otherwise. And I think that's a voice too. That's somebody crying out.
Oh, yeah.
And you see even prostitution and so forth. These are people crying out. Voice is not just words that are being, it's behavior as well. And I think we need to keep that in mind.
That's good.
Which goes to the last thing that we wanted to talk about, and this myth of your truth. And, everybody says, well, speak your truth. And I agree with that if you define truth as perspective. If you define truth as absolute truth, we got a problem, because truth is not an opinion. Truth is truth. It's fact-based. And so your truth cannot be something that's false, but it's something that you want to say. But your perspective, you need to share that. You need to be able to share that. And I think that's what people mean when they say share your truth. And I think we need to be careful to make those definitions, because there are people that have been abused that their truth is that they were abused. That is truth. That's not just perspective. But then there are people that speak their perspective, which may be skewed by their inability to perceive truth. And when we give the same level of credence to somebody's perspective as objective truth, I hope I haven't lost the audience here, but when we give the same credence to perspective as truth, for example, there's a girl, college, she's in for whatever reason, she's struggling in school, not academically, but socially, and she accused the soccer team, I believe it was, 4 or 5 of these kids of raping her, gang rape. And they got prosecuted, and the whole thing, was just horrible. And later she recanted and said it never happened. So her truth was actually her perspective, or her truth was actually a lie in that case. What I don't know what the truth was at the point. The truth was that she was not raped, and she admitted that, and the boys had protested and said they didn't do it. But we have to be careful that somebody's voice is not just their viewpoint or their manipulation. When we want people to have a healthy voice, which is balanced, which is truth-based, which is, I'll go back to it, healthy. When we're able to share a healthy expression of our concerns, we get ourselves where it's out in the light of day, then it can be dealt with by our friends or by our family members or a trusted counselor or whoever it is. I think sometimes we go, well, this is your truth, so I accept it. I think a lot of people have been accused of things that weren't true, and under the guise of that's the truth.
Right.
It's your truth. Well, maybe not. So when we think about voice, don't just think about actions or words. Don't just think about words, but think of actions. And when we talk about truth, just because somebody says it doesn't make it true. But when they say it, there's a concern there, and you need to be able to in a healthy way, adjust to that and help them through that.
Yeah. So, and again, circling back, like you said, about parenting, the sooner we can create an environment for children to be heard and for their voice to matter, the better it is for the long term.
Absolutely.
And it's just never too late to start that. Let me encourage you with that. Even if you're now parenting teens, or even if your children are grown, and of course, like all of us, we have regrets around some of the decisions we made and how we did it because we just didn't have a manual and you only get one run at it, when you're parenting, you're in it. So I just know that it's never too late to begin the practice of listening and allowing someone to have their voice. And it actually provides really fertile soil for a fresh, new relationship to begin to grow. So never stop pursuing that.
There are hidden things in your kids' hearts and lives. There are hidden feelings. There are hidden actions. There's things they feel shameful about, that they're afraid to share. You can't get them to share everything. And even if you think you're being open and, you can share anything with me, it doesn't matter. I will love you no matter what. They're still going to try to hide things. It just happens, and then when it is shared, instead of being shocked, love well. I think that's the most important thing. So when the voice is recaptured, be ready. I remember this one couple, and I'll close with this illustration. This one couple I was counseling, and I may have shared this in this series, but he said, it's like she's turning into this horrible person. And I said, you're just not used to her standing up for herself. And when somebody for the first time recaptures their voice, it sounds like rebellion, when in reality it is saying, hear me, love me. And I think it's important for you to do just that.
Yeah.
Hear and love well. And hang on if you have to. Just hang on. Don't react. Commiserate. And at the appropriate time, correct if necessary, but really love well. I think that's the key. Well, I hope that you've enjoyed this series. We had 6 installments on this. If you missed some of those, we have them archived at hoperescuepodcast.org. By the way, we have a lot of topics on marriage and family and child rearing and so forth.
Yeah.
You can go back and look at those archives anytime, or invite a friend to listen to it with you. We're podcasters. I listen to podcasts. Gracie was telling me she listens to podcasts to and from
Most
work.
of our kids listen to them.
We love podcasts, not necessarily ours, but we're glad you do. And it's hard to listen to yourself. But anyway, we're so glad that you joined us and that you join us every week. Thank you for those of you who support us financially. Thank you for that as well. And we will be here next week and every week coming up. We have some great series. If I can remember what it was, we're going to have a great series coming up next week. God bless. Have a great week.
Bye, guys.